Сайн бацгаана оюутнуудаа. Оюунлаг төвийн Австрали улс дахь салбараас та бүхэндээ мэдчилж байна. За өнөөдөр мөн түнчлэн North Sydney English College-ийн Сидней хотод байрлах салбараас мэдчилж байна. За өнөөдрийн дугаараараа дахин Rick багшаагаа урьсан байгаа. Rick багш маань оюутан та бүхэндээ дахин одоо IELTS-ийн writing technique-ийг хэрхэн яаж бичих талаар илүү дэлгэрэнгүй мэдээлэл өгөхөөр бид нэр урьж авчирсан байгаа шүү. Okay, hello Rick. So in this video we're gonna talk about more techniques about IELTS writing techniques, new techniques, right?
Yes.
So can you please give some general information about the IELTS writing techniques?
Okay. Yeah. Well, firstly, the IELTS writing test is 1 hour, and there are two tasks: task 1 and task 2.
Right.
For task 1, we recommend 20 minutes. And you need to write 150 words.
Right.
For general training IELTS, task 1 is a letter, sometimes formal, sometimes casual. And for academic IELTS, task 1, you have to describe a graph or bar chart, or if you're unlucky, a picture, for example.
Yes.
Task 2. Task 2 is basically the same for general training IELTS and academic IELTS. And sometimes, well, the academic one is maybe slightly harder, but books usually teach them together. They're basically the same. Task 2, we recommend 40 minutes. I mean, maybe, 41, maybe 39, but we recommend 40 minutes. And for task 2, you need to write 250 words. And
right.
It's an essay, yeah. It's
Essay, right? Yeah. Okay, so can you please a little bit more describe about general writing section?
Okay, general IELTS,
yes,
general training
IELTS.
The short writing, the letter. Okay, so most letters are formal, probably 70 or 80% of the letters are formal, but some are casual. And it's very important that you use formal English if it's a formal letter and use casual English if it's a casual letter. Obviously we don't have a lot of time to talk about everything here, but one key thing is that in a formal letter you should not use contractions. So for example, in a formal letter you need to write is not. Don't write isn't.
Okay.
For example, so is not, good, isn't, or do not. For example, in a formal letter, do not, okay. But
don't is not.
Is not.
Yeah.
Okay. In a casual letter, you can use isn't or don't, and of course, when you're speaking, for example, that's okay.
Right.
What else can we say? Well, the start of the letter and the end of the letter are very important, and basically there are two things that the letter will say, the question will say how to start. Sometimes the question says start your letter dear blank, and sometimes it says start your letter dear sir stroke madam. Now if the question says start your letter dear blank and it's a casual letter, so the question says you're writing to a friend, then start with the first name or short name, so for example dear Sam, and there are hundreds of ways you can finish the letter, but I think the safest way is probably just best wishes. If the question says start dear blank and it's a formal letter, then you need to start with dear Mr. or dear Ms. For example, Smith, family name, Taylor, Cruz, whatever you like. In the USA, they put full stops still here, but in Australia, we don't. And how should you finish a letter that starts dear Mr. Smith, dear Ms. Smith? Traditionally, you should finish it yours sincerely, capital Y, O-U-R-S. Don't forget the S. A lot of students forget the S. Sincerely, small s. Don't forget E-R-E-L-Y, comma. Many native speakers don't know about this, but it should be dear Mr. Smith, dear Ms. Smith, yours sincerely. If the question says start Dear Sir stroke Madam, then of course you must start Dear Sir stroke Madam. Don't change the question. And if you start Dear Sir stroke Madam, if you don't know the name, then traditionally you should finish yours faithfully. Capital Y, O-U-R-S, don't forget the S, and then faithfully, comma. Again, many native speakers don't know about this rule, but examiners should know it. And the start of the letter, the end of the letter are key, they're important. What other things can we say? The first sentence of the letter, very often you say why you're writing. I'm writing because blah blah blah, or I'm writing to complain about blah blah blah. Something like that at the start is very common. You must answer every part of the letter. The question will have basically 3 bullet points, and you must answer every part. The number one reason students get a lower score than they want in the writing test is they haven't answered the question. They haven't answered all of the questions. So make sure you answer every part. Often it's a good idea to have a separate paragraph for each part, but not always. And again, we don't have a lot of time here, but we'll just look at a few key phrases that could help you. There are many phrases that could help you, but some of my favourites are I would be grateful if you could blah 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 blah. Or I would be very grateful, or I would be extremely grateful if you could blah blah blah. Be careful how you spell grateful. It's A-T-E, not E-A-T, which many students write. Other useful phrases: would you mind blah 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 ing. Would you mind sending me some more information, for example? That's a request, so some. After would you mind, you need ing. Don't be too strong. Sometimes a lot of the letters are complaining letters, but don't be too strong in the way you complain. Examiners don't like it if students are too strong in a complaining letter. So maybe something like this could be useful. I am afraid blah blah blah. We can often use this before we say something a bit negative, and it makes it polite. I'm afraid that there is a problem with the heating in my apartment. For example. It makes it polite. And another one that's very useful: I am looking forward to blah blah blah. In this, to is a preposition. After I'm looking forward to, you need ing. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, or a noun or noun phrase. I'm looking forward to the weekend. So these are some useful phrases for short general training writing a letter.
All right, okay. Then let's talk a little bit more about the academic IELTS writing then.
Okay, all right. So academic IELTS short writing, the same as the general training, 20 minutes, and we recommend you should write 150 words.
Yes.
We recommend 20 minutes, maybe 21, maybe 19, but we recommend 20 minutes. And I'm afraid that the short academic writing is tough. It's difficult. It looks easy, but it isn't. If you ask examiners where do students make the most mistakes, in the writing test, the answer is often the same. Short writing, academic writing. It's not very nice, but with some practice, you will get better and better, and hopefully get a good score.
Yeah.
Okay, so short academic writing, usually students have to describe a graph or bar chart or pie chart or something like that. However, if they're unlucky, they could get a picture.
Yeah.
Now, structure for short academic writing. Traditionally, the advice is introduction at the start, and it's basically always the same. This graph shows blah blah blah, or this bar chart shows blah blah blah. You just say what it shows. This graph shows unemployment rates in the USA from 1970 to 2010, or whatever the information is at the start. After that, describe the information, increase, decrease, all that kind of thing. Then a small conclusion at the end. That's kind of the traditional way, and that's what I usually recommend. However, some teachers prefer introduction, then what they call an overview, which is basically like a conclusion, where you describe everything, like a summary of everything, and then a more detailed description. It's your choice, really, which style you use. I prefer introduction. Describe, small conclusion, but it's your choice. Okay, now, what are some keywords for short academic writing? Oh. Well, again, there are lots and lots of keywords. We don't have time to look at everything here, but we will look at a few. All right, so let's say you've got a graph like this. Something like this. So again, this could be, for example, the unemployment rate. So unemployment rate I'll have here, and then 1970 to 2010, for example. All right, so here. What are some keywords? Well, of course, increase is a keyword, but don't always use the word increase. You need to use some different vocabulary. So words like increase, but also words like rise, climb. So the rate, often it's past tense. Sometimes it can be present tense, but often it's past tense. So the rate increased, the rate climbed, rose, R-O-S-E. And you can see here, it's increasing, but only increasing slightly. So these could be keywords that could help you. Slightly, gradually, there's another one. So in 1975, the rate increased slightly or climbed gradually, something like that. Here, you can use the same words here. The same words here, climb, increase, climbed, increased. But here it's like that. So exactly, well done. So you can use words like sharply, dramatically, things like that. So in 1980, the rate climbed rapidly, increased dramatically, something like that. This point here is the peak. We can use this as a noun, the peak. We can also use it as a verb, to peak. The rate peaked in 1990, for example. Here, going down. Well, increase, opposite, decrease. or of course past tense decreased. Another useful word, fall. Another useful word is fall, past tense fell. Some teachers like the word decline. And here going up a lot, here going down a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, you can use these same words here.
Sharp.
Yeah, decreased sharply, fell dramatically, that kind of thing. Here, remained stable, I think is probably the safest one. Just here, possibly stabilized, something like that. Or remain steady you can use for this. Here, probably it's not very well drawn. How can I do it a bit more like that? All right, so this again is going down, so you can use the same words here: decreased, declined, fell. But this is only a little,
Yeah.
so the same words here: fell slightly, gradually, minimally is another quite nice one. Or you can reverse that and say there was a slight decrease. There was a dramatic decrease. There was a dramatic increase. Reverse the grammar there. What's another useful word if it's going up and down a lot? Quite a useful word is fluctuate. To fluctuate means to go up and down. That's another useful word. There are lots of useful words, but I think these are the most useful ones. If you get a picture, scream, shout. If you get a picture, a diagram, yeah, you've been unlucky, really. There's not a lot of advice I can quickly give for this. I mean, obviously in the class I can talk about it a lot more. But use passive sentences.
Yeah.
Often, if you've got a picture of a process, the concrete is mixed in a mixer, that kind of thing. But yeah, pictures are really not nice. Usually you get a graph, bar chart, pie chart, and basically all the language is the same. Obviously this is a graph, but if you've got a bar chart, well, it's the same kind of thing, increase, decrease, exactly the same kind of words.
Great, fabulous. Yeah, thank you very much. And so now let's discuss more about the second part. It is the
yes.
long writing
Okay,
section,
yes,
right?
Yes, the long writing. So task 2.
Yeah.
Task 2 is basically the same for general training IELTS and academic IELTS. And we recommend 40 minutes, but maybe 41, maybe 39. And you need to write 250 words. Basically, there are two kinds of long essays, task 2 writing. A, agree, disagree, advantage, disadvantage essays. B, essays that are not agree, disagree, advantage, disadvantage essays. So examples, A, school uniforms are a good idea. Do you agree or disagree? B, what problems can drugs cause, and what are some solutions, for example. However, there are other kinds of essays. 2 weeks ago in the test there was an unusual essay that was kind of a mixture of A and B. So if you're unlucky, again, you could get something a bit different. Just make sure that you answer the question. Again, structure is key. We've been talking a little bit about structure and how to start, how to finish things. If it's an agree, disagree, advantage, disadvantage essay. For example, school uniforms are a good idea. Do you agree or do you disagree? Then usually the structure we recommend is introduction, about 30 words, conclusion, about 20 words, and then half the essay on agree things, half the essay on disagree things. And you need about 2 or 3 ideas on each side. Or some people prefer introduction, agree, disagree, agree, disagree, agree, disagree, conclusion. If you use that structure, you need paragraphs there. Examiners love paragraphs, and these 2 things have to be connected. Or occasionally, this is possible, just looking at one side. So introduction, all, advantage, conclusion. Or, of course, introduction, all, disadvantage, conclusion. Now, if the question says, do you agree or disagree, or how much do you agree or disagree, or to what extent do you agree or disagree, you can choose any structure you like, but I recommend that one. Sometimes the question says, look at both sides. If the question says, look at both sides, you must choose this structure or this structure, not this structure or this structure.
Yeah.
And very occasionally, the question says, just look at one side. If the question says, just look at one side, then of course you must choose this structure or this structure, not this one or this one. Where does the opinion go, your opinion go? Basically, for this kind of essay, the opinion's at the end. This kind of essay, you should have a little bit, maybe one sentence on the other side. The opinion's at the start and also at the end. Also at the end. Structure is very important. Basically, examiners, they really want to see good structure.
Good structure.
They must answer the question, you must have good structure, good vocabulary, good grammar. All right, now again, we'll just look quickly at a few keywords for long essays, for task 2 essays. Again, there are many. I could talk about this for a long time, really, but we'll just look at a few key things. Yes. Examiners want good structure, and because they want good structure, linking words are really important. Linking words, linking phrases. So words like also, something like in addition. School uniforms are look very smart. Also, they can be cheaper than buying other clothes, something like that. Maybe. Other linking words, however. Especially when you're going from agree to disagree, often you can start by using however. Although, for example. Firstly, secondly, finally. Examiners like linking words because they make the structure better. So really try to use lots and lots of linking words. What's a good way to start the conclusion, or a good linking phrase for the conclusion? Not finally. You could have that just before the conclusion, maybe. I usually just recommend in conclusion for the start of the conclusion. Definitely make sure you don't go off topic. If the question's about school uniforms, write about school uniforms. Don't write 250 words about your high school. If the question is not an agree-disagree essay, there are many kinds, so I can't talk too much about the structure for that. But for example, if it's what problems do drugs cause, what are some solutions, then introduction, problems, solutions, conclusion, for example. But there are, I can't talk a lot about structure for those essays because there are many kinds. Remember that examiners are checking your English. They are not checking your opinion. You can say school uniforms are wonderful, you can say school uniforms are terrible. Both are correct. And they're not checking your knowledge of history, geography, school uniforms, or anything. They're checking your English. A lot of students seem to worry about that, but remember, they're checking your English, they're not checking your opinion, they're not checking your knowledge of any particular topic. Of course, in real life, your opinion is extremely important, of course, but your opinion will not affect your IELTS score. One last thing I could talk about, well, maybe two short things. Examiners like topic sentences. So we've got these linking words. Examiners also like topic sentences. Topic sentences are mini introductions. They introduce the paragraph. So for example, however, linking word, there are also disadvantages associated with school uniforms. Could be a good way to start that part of the essay. And it's a good topic sentence. Again, it makes the structure better, it makes it easier for the examiners to read, and it will increase your score. And final thing, adverbs. Examiners quite like seeing adverbs, so words like fortunately, obviously, sadly, at the start of a sentence, for example. That can help you to give your opinion, and it can help to increase your score.
Great. Thank you very much, Rick, for your valuable advice to our students.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your accompany me today. Okay. За ингээд оюутнуудаа одоо энэ өнөөдрийн маань өгсөн энэ writing skill-ийг хэрхэн сайжруулах вэ гэсэн энэ зөвлөгөө маань та бүхэнд өндөр оноо авчрах байхаа гэж найдаж байна. Та бүхэндээ баярлалаа. Баяртай. Bye.